U.S. white wheat is desired across Asia for the color it imparts to Oriental noodles made from it, and the sweet flavor it imparts to Middle Eastern bread products. And here in south-central Idaho, a premier producer of white wheat is Seth Woodland. Seth produces 1,000 acres of hard white wheat and averaged 70 bushels per acre early on with marginal protein, but has been able to double that yield with high quality, a 62-pound test weight, and boost protein to 15.5%. But how did he do that? Seth implemented the recommendations of Rocky Mountain Agronomics and the Texas Plant and Soil Lab to improve his yield and protein content.
So one of the things we do is we use a product called BioSi. When we planted our crops, on all our crops, we use Select and Ag Formula Mix before we plant. And then we run BioSi all through the season through our water all year long. And then we really address the micronutrients and the NPK issues that are there. One of the things that we found is we put on a lot more calcium than ever was asked for. A lot of calcium. So every year we get lime dirt from the sugar factory, and we dump on a ton to every acre, and then we come in with another mix to convert that all over so it's calcium. And we've used it all up, and we found that because of that, our bugs, we don't have bugs. We don't spray any insecticide on the farm, period, any crop. Fungicide, we don't do any fungicides anymore. Seed treats or anything, we just don't have to use it. We don't have, and a couple other micronutrients that we use, we're able to control our bug issue. So we just don't have it there. Another thing that's happened is our soil has mellowed out, so when we don't have the cost of deep tillage anymore. You have structure underneath, so that now our implement that we're pulling through, we'll pull in dry ground 6 to 8 inches on a disc, and that's a whole lot cheaper and a lot more effective than trying to run a V-ripper down there, and you're not doing any favors. You're not building structure doing that. All you're trying to do is get water to go through. Our water retention, since we started that, we use a fraction of the water. I mean, you still have to have water to grow the crop. I mean, there's so much you have to do, but we get to shut our wells off because we've built up the profile and let it sit. We don't have to always have that water going. We run our pivots down to an inch an acre when we're going around. But because we've been able to do all these things, cost of production has gone. Cost of the expense goes down and our profits go up. So
that's what you certainly like to see.
We love that.
Seth Woodland consulted with Jared Cook of Rocky Mountain Agronomics, who said the farm was at a standstill in productivity. Yields and quality were deteriorating. Soil health was declining. Plant diseases and pests were increasing. And he said,
I mean, it was somewhat of a disaster, to be quite honest. What was interesting about the owner of this farm is that they had a huge amount of data, soil data, plant data, that really just showed stagnant numbers. And so in thinking about this, I've been in touch with Noe Garcia, Texas Plant and Soil Lab, and we started talking back and forth about different plant testing mechanisms and soil testing procedures, and we've kind of come up with a little snapshot, if you will, of maybe some differences between other laboratories versus Texas Plant and Soil Lab. I want to run you through that real quick.
Okay, and Noe, what you and Jared come up with here?
Well, go ahead, Jared, and then we'll.
Well, so what we've got a target. I love shooting guns. It's one of my hobbies. I love accuracy, love precision, and what we found, just amongst talking and with historical data of this farm particularly, is that a lot of our laboratories, local labs or outside of Texas Plant and Soil Lab, they would, if they were to look at them as a gun, they may be shooting up here, a group of bullets right here, which, relatively speaking, that's a tight group, but it's a long way from the bullseye. That's our target. That's where we want to be. So crop production, maximizing productivity, we have to be here. Really, seeing what we've seen with some of these other agencies, we're accurate, but we were missing the mark. So it's like they're accurate within their realm of their standard, but based on how would you look at it? Based on the lack of productivity, there was something missing. And so as we started working with Texas Plant and Soil Lab and with Noel here, we recognized that their lab is capable of bringing us precision within this range right here. So now we're getting the same tight group, but right where we want, right on the bullseye.
Okay.
And so that's how I like to look at it, and that's how I've explained what we're capable of doing with customers nationwide. Is we can bring them from here to right there.
All right. Knowing how were you able to do that?
Well, I think it goes back to our natural extraction method, starting with soil analysis, where we're using carbon dioxide as a extraction agent, and we're mimicking the roots. The roots give off carbon dioxide, form a weak carbonic acid, and utilize those nutrients. So we're seeing exactly what the plant is seeing, and it's the only soil test that's actually calibrated back to plant uptake, meaning that if your plant analysis comes back low in, say, phosphorus, our soil test most likely will be testing low. Problem that I have with a lot of these other extractions, sometimes they tend to overestimate what's actually plant available. And that's why, talking to all these farmers this week is that they've seen their test data that they've done with their local labs, and nothing has changed in the last 20, 30 years. Why is that? We've started increasing our fertility programs, but yet our soil test still saying that we're still at the same level year after year after year. I think that's one of the biggest things that we have as Texas Plant Soil Lab is our weak carbonic acid, very unique. Then we go to what we call our Ask the Plant program, or tissue or pedio analysis. And that's what Jared was talking about here. Most laboratories will provide a huge range. For example, potassium, seeing some that will range from 0.5 all the way 10%. Well, that's a very huge range. What we've done, we've actually optimized our plant nutrients based on plant uptake. Early on, nutrient needs are very low. As the crop starts building up towards booting, then that demand starts increasing. So we modify our standards throughout the growing season to justify that, and that's how we can accomplish better quality yield, increased quality overall.
Our initial sampling started when that plant was just barely out of the ground. We were pulling a whole plant, root and all, remove as much of the soil as possible from the root, and we're sending anywhere between 40 and 50 plants per about 50, 60 acres to the lab, and we use that as our baseline for managing the plant. But we started with the soil analysis, because the soil analysis gave us the point of view of what was available immediately to the plant. That got us to that first plant sample, and then from there, about every 2 weeks on this wheat, we were pulling just a leaf analysis, pulling the youngest new growth, and sending that to the lab for analysis, and we were fertilizing accordingly. Whatever the lab recommended, we did it, and just no questions, and we've got a tremendous crop here behind us.
The frequent plant analysis has an intensive schedule with it, but because it pays in the end, Seth Woodland is on board.
Yep, we just send it, and then what he recommends, we do. I don't bicker with it. And they haven't led me wrong yet.
Now, these are not just NP and K, but it's micronutrients.
All the micronutrients, the boron, the zinc, the copper, the manganese, magnesium, calcium, silicon, all of them.
And really, it's a full meal deal for wheat that's hungry.
Right. If you miss one of those, and I like the example of the wood barrel, and you have the planks in it, and each one represents one of those micronutrients, you're missing one of those, you can't fill it to the top. Plain and simple. If there's a hole in your bucket, it won't go up. And so you have to keep filling those. And so we test and test and test over and over and over to make sure we have what it takes. And of course your budget's there. And Rocky Mountain has worked really good with our budget. The bank's only going to lend you so much. So you got to use what you have.
And that's the story about Seth Woodland's hard white wheat in south central Idaho. a 130 bushel yield, 62-pound test weight, and 15.5% protein without having to apply insecticides or fungicides. The high-margin secret is following the nutrient recommendations of the Texas Plant and Soil Lab. This is Stu Ellis reporting.